Hello, beloveds. I wanted to come live to share about my perspective on womb work being the key code for us to access fifth dimensional ascension. And so this message is really deep because for me, the essence of womb work truly has to do with shadow work. And right now we are about to be under the Scorpio full moon, the pink moon, which is all about shadow work. So if you're joining this live or you're listening to the replay, this is where we're going. We're going to talk about shadow work, specifically how it pertains to the womb. And this message applies, of course, to women, no matter if you still have a womb, if you're still bleeding, whatever phase of your womanhood that you're in, this message pertains to you, as well as to the men, because men also have a creative center known as the hara, which is all the way down to the lingam and the pubic bone and all the way up to the rib cage. So the whole hara space is the creative center. Seeing so many beauties hop in here. Hello. I feel like it's been a while since I've come through and done a live transmission. So I'm currently in Tucson, Arizona for the gem show here, collecting a bunch of crystals, and in my hotel room, it's super cute here. So I thought it would be a beautiful space in time to come through and bring this message that I've been pondering on a lot lately. So essentially, womb work, womb healing is shadow work. So the way that the womb works as a energy center, but also as a physical organ, is that it stores information, and it stores memories, and it stores sensations. And these can be both positive and negative sensations. And so when we look at the actual tissues of the organ and how it's connected, the womb, as a physical organ, is also connected to the vagus nerve. It's connected to the sacrum, which is also connected all the way to our spine, reaching up all the way to our cerebral spine and into our skull. And so every thought, every sensation, every emotion that we experience, it's all connected, not just with the womb, but also with the organ of the heart, with our bones, our blood. Everything is all connected. And so specifically with shadow work, when we experience trauma, when we experience rather negative situations that leave us feeling horrible, that leave us feeling worthless, that is coded into the physicality of our body, and it's also coded into our etheric layer of our aura, which then extends into our emotional layers of our aura, our mental layers of our aura, as well as the spiritual layers of our aura. And so all of these different facets of our being, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, are impacted by the situations that we experience in our life. And so if we experience super dense things that fucking suck and we don't deal with them, they just lay stagnant in our field. And then the more bottled up that the mental and the spiritual and the emotional layers of the aura, the less that the higher frequency codes coming from the sun, coming from the solar system and the earth and the space around us, when all of that is dense, it can't reach through our etheric aura into the different subtle energies in our body, as well as the physical organs of our body. And then it gets even deeper stored and stagnant in our organs and the tissues and the muscles of our body, and our breasts, especially for women, and our womb, especially for women. And the beautiful thing about the womb is that it's like a record keeper, very much connected to the Akasha of this lifetime, so that all of the information and the frequencies and the energy that we experience in our life as we grow our offsprings, all of that is coded into the maternal line through the womb space. And so you can imagine, if you are super dense, you have a lot of shadow work to do, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of repressed emotions, there's a lot of experiences that are still lingering in your physical body and your emotions, the nervous system, everything. How do you ascend, right? Because in order to ascend, we have to be able to levitate. We have to become lighter. But when we are heavy and dense, that only contributes to either staying stagnant or dissension. And so shadow work essentially is intentionally descending into the experience of our lives, both physical, living experiences, but also emotional and energetic experiences. We descend into the shadows to face those depths so that we can create and cultivate greater clarity in order to elevate. And so fifth dimensional ascension, that's powerful, right? You may or you may not be aware of the different dimensions and the way that density works in this realm. So essentially, I'll kind of give a crash course on this. I guess that would be important. When you go out, and we're here, I'm in this physical space, I am in the third dimension, which is, of course, if it's 3, lower density, lower dimension, it's not as ascended, it's not as a high. And so as we work up to the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th dimensions, we become lighter and lighter and more buoyant. In this third dimension, very physical space, when we experience trauma, it's stored in the physical. And so if you want to overcome your shadows, if you want to overcome the deep, dark shit that is still lingering in your system, go to the body, right? Move her. Let it out, right? And so the fifth dimension is where we should have our sights on right now as humanity, to descend or ascend beyond the density of 3D. And this is important because as we reach higher and higher to the fifth dimension, the more we come into compassion, the more we come into our truth, the more we become more aligned with the cosmic consciousness, and the more we can really explore the realms of prosperity and pleasure and infinite prosperity and pleasure. And so even though we are on Earth, which is categorized as a third dimensional space, right now we're shifting. Right now the frequencies of the Earth are ascending higher to the 4th and the 5th dimensions. And so when we're in the third dimension, in that density, we are descending into the shadow work. And then once we create more clarity and more space, that is when we ascend into the higher, the 4th dimension, which brings us deeper into compassion and love. And then beyond there, we come into the 5th dimension, which is very embodied in cosmic consciousness. And so when we are doing womb work, especially as women and men, the womb is a very holy place because it not only is a record keeper for our living experiences, but it also holds the portal of the divine and our ability to co-create with spirit and create, whether that be a physical child, or maybe that is an experience, a sensation, a feeling, a way of being, a business, artwork. So the womb holds great capacities for us to create. And so if we want to feel more liberated and more aligned with our creations, womb work should be your focus. If you're currently living in a life that is filled with anxiety, that is filled with tension, that is filled with density, go to the womb. Do the shadow work. What are the traumas? What have you experienced? What have people said to you? What have you said to yourself? Go back there, clear that energy so that you can arise. And when we acknowledge our shadow, the shadow only wants to be acknowledged. It's not here to torture us. It's not here to drag us down. Shadow is here because it wants attention. It wants us to see where there's growth. And there's always going to be shadow. As far as I'm experiencing in this life, like I'm doing the work every single day, there's always shadow. There's always more to look at. There's always more experiences to learn from, right? And a lot of times there's layers, and these layers aren't linear. A lot of time it comes in cycles and it spirals around. And so the more that you move upon that trajectory of the spiral, the more you go in and in and in and in, the safer you get to that core. And as you get to that core, the ascension takes place. And so when I say wound work, it equals fifth dimensional ascension. I am literally sharing that if you want to ascend into greater, higher vibrational peace and wellness and prosperity, you must go to the womb. I identify as the womb priestess because I am here to show you how to access all that is in your inner world, how to do the shadow work, how to be held in shadow work so that you can transform it and transcend it and rebirth into your fifth dimensional self. I hope that this message was shared with you in divine timing and that you understand what I'm talking about. It's very interesting to take fifth dimensional knowledge and experience and higher dimensional experiences and knowledge that's coming through and transmute it into the 3D and share it vocally. So I hope that you got this message, and if you have any questions, please ask questions. If you have questions now, I'll go ahead and scroll up to see if you guys had anything to say. Ooh, I can't wait to work with you too, Angie. Love you, love you, love you. Would that help me with my PTSD and anxiety? Of course. Why do you think you have anxiety? It's because of the PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is quite literally your trauma still living in your body. The soma, the neural fascia, the fabric that has built your body, the trauma that you experienced is still living in you. So when you have these triggers and these PTSD flare-ups, the body is trying to work it out. But without guidance and without support, it just keeps knotting up in that cycle. And the anxiety is a byproduct of that. And so if you want to clear your PTSD, do the shadow work. And now's the perfect time because it's the Scorpio full moon. Another great way, especially if you need some grace and some gentleness, go bask in the sunlight. The sun holds powerful quantum Christ codes for ascension and healing. And so just basking in the sunlight, you will clear the mental and emotional layers of your aura so that the spiritual layer of the aura can really expand and then create more spaciousness to bring clarity in the etheric layer of the aura, which then goes into the skin and the fabric of your being. And so that's a really simple practice that you can do. It doesn't always have to be super dark. It doesn't always have to be super deep, which it should be that too. But if you have PTSD, I recommend having support. I'll be more than happy to guide you there. Any questions? How do I finally get out of the lack? So difficult to create from that. I hear you. Clear that code from your system. Shake it out. Move it. Move your body with the intention that you are releasing lack. Transition it, transcend it into prosperity. Prosperity is a frequency. Abundance is a frequency that is your inherent birthright. And as we ascend, we come into our prosperity. We come into our quantum abundance. Lack is density. And so shake it off, move it from the system, levitate it, and allow yourself to access the prosperity, which is here. It's already here. It's just waiting for you to accept it. And so rather focusing on the lack, transition it into prosperity. It's all here. It's all here. It's all here. You have to do the pillar, the triangle pillar work of the mind, the body, and the spirit to create cohesive, sacred union to welcome in greater prosperity. Especially if you're creating. That lack is just stored information from the past. And so clear that. Do the shadow work. If you guys have any more questions, you're welcome to ask. These are powerful times to be alive. I'm so grateful to be a guide as well for this great work. And I'm very, very excited for an opportunity that I have coming up called the Rebirth Immersion, which is a beautiful, intimate retreat in Costa Rica with me that is combined with a 3-month mentorship. And so if you're deep in the shadow work and you need guidance, if you need support in the womb work to ascend, to rebirth into your 5th dimensional self, into your highest embodiment, I am here to guide you along that path. And the Rebirth Immersion is a holy way to go about that, where you can be held and you can be supported and you can be initiated into the prosperity. In Costa Rica, the goddess is alive and well. My greatest healing took place in Costa Rica. I lived there in 2018 for 9 months, completely rebirthed myself. Did a lot of shadow work. I was depressed most of the time. So those lands, the volcano, the ocean, the jungle, the animals, the consciousness, it holds rebirth in the holiest of ways that I know, which is why I'm doing a retreat there. And I'm not just doing a retreat, I'm doing the mentorship. If you want to join the retreat, you have to go deep with me for 3 months so that we can really activate these codes into your reality as you go home. And if you're interested in that, it's in my bio. Check it out. You'll know if it's for you, and trust that. Alrighty, babes. If you don't have any more questions, I'm going to shapeshift into a different project. I love you guys. I hope this message resonated. And just remember, womb work is shadow work. And if you want to access greater prosperity, 5th dimensional ascension, you have to do the shadow work. And the best way to do that is through the womb. You can internally work with her, with de-armoring. You can dance, you can move your body, you can breathe, you can do breath work, you can pray, you can bask in the sun. There's so many modalities to work with the womb. And you should. It's time. Casting light codes to all of you guys, and blessings upon your ascension. Satnam.